Hey, welcome back, guys. So there's a tweet I came across that was mocking just how hard Ronnie said F Rock during that party scene where he introduced Kanan to Snaps and Pop. The tweet said, quote, "Ronnie just about broke his jaw, didn't he? What did Rock do? This is a different kind of hate." And so me being me, I playfully retweeted it and I said, she took DEF CON away from him. Now I was halfway playing when I said that, but then I thought about it. Ronnie is the strangest character that we've ever seen on Raising Kanan thus far. As far as we know, he formerly ran the streets opposite of High Post, and the two had an agreement on blocks and splits prior to the death of High Post. Now, if you go back into the pilot episode of Raising Kanan, a grown Kanan tells us that High Post would in fact be lit up for telling, but he always liked that brother because he was good to his moms. Now, that just may be the story that he told us because that's the story a younger him received from his mother. But as we know with Rock, she's not a reliable narrator herself and will embellish, twist, turn, and outright change the truth in order to keep everything beneath her under her control. So just what did Rock do to Ronnie? Or perhaps a better question, what did Ronnie see Rock do? How did he see her move that inspired such a hatred for her? In this video, we'll dissect some of this and try to reach a conclusion as to what will make a man nearly break his jaw to disrespect his ops so fervently. Before we begin, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and bell notification to immediately receive these videos. Also, big thank you to all of my channel donors. If you'd like to be the next one, drop $1 on that Cash App for us. And lastly, a spoiler alert is now in effect for All Things Power. Here we go. Now going back to season 1 and some of the Easter eggs therein, Rock apprehensively met with Howard and revealed some very interesting story items in regards to DEF CON. The most shocking being that DEF CON, one of the most notorious gangsters in New York history, has been depicted on this show, was left-handed, i.e. a member of the LGBT community, a practicer of alternative lifestyles, or whatever you want to call it. DEF CON didn't prefer the affections of women, but used Rock as a buffer between himself and power. Rock stated that she knew Howard was Kanan's true father, but because he was a cop, she couldn't allow the streets to believe such a thing. Now, she stated this out of some kind of twisted affection for her boy, understanding that the streets would eat him alive if they knew that he was a cop's kid. By the streets believing that DEF CON was his father, Kanan would already be born into the game with some kind of credibility, something that he could take and further his own plight with, just off the strength of his name alone. We've seen the strength of that name already propel him to certain heights and get him into certain rooms that he previously wouldn't be invited to, such as that gangster party, which Ronnie put him on to, introduced him to all the thugsters, and placed him in a situation where he would take his business, or should I say, they would take his business, integrate a stronger, more profitable drug, and then distribute it throughout the city for much larger profit margins. None of this takes place without the backing of that DEF CON name. But there's another reason Rock went along with this as well, and it was to hide her own indiscretions as it pertained to law enforcement. It was Rock who at a very young age was involved with a police officer, first informationally and then sexually, unfortunately. So Rock essentially was a neighborhood girl who grew up around those same thugsters, or that thug element that Kanan would later grow up around. But she was also double-minded in her maneuvers, as she had dealings with the cops and the streets. And this knowledge could be the origin as to why Ronnie despises her the way he does. Because he knows she's a hustler in the truest sense, not just a hustler of product and a hustler of the streets, but she's a hustler of the entire game itself, able to flip on one side and the other, yet still maintain a good name in the streets. This is something that Rock is currently doing, as we still see her have pull on the inside of the police department through Howard, someone who she's always had a connection to and still maintains a strong bond with just off the strength of Kanan. But there's another, even more shocking reason that I believe Ronnie maintains a deep hatred for Rock, and this also goes back to DEF CON. You see, if DEF CON was left-handed, and he reigned from anywhere from 10 to 12 years ago, and Ronnie was in jail for 3 of those years, and prior to was out running the streets and doing his own thing as well, who's to say Ronnie didn't come across DEF CON? And based on how we've seen Ronnie deal with women, coupled with his time in prison, for which he obviously thrived in, given the disposition that we see him in, who's to say Ronnie wasn't one of the affections that DEF CON was lending himself to? Now, I know some of this may sound very strange to you all, but think about it. Ronnie's introduced to us as a character with no compassion, zero affection, And much of this could be attributed to him being institutionalized. And then, when we see him in scenarios with women, look how strangely he behaves. When our dearly departed Unique tried to put some ass on his lap in that club, Ronnie reacted as if he had got some fabuloso in his eyes. He was emphatic and fervent, dare I say sickened by the idea that a woman would approach him with all that ass. Now at this time, we could say that he was focused on his empire, or should I say rebuilding it, or focused on the disrespect from that one security guard who was the first of many of Ronnie's victims this season. But really think about it. When Ronnie approached Snaps and Pop and attempted to make good with them in order to get an investment, Pop kind of came on to Ronnie herself, being a little more friendly than she needed to be. And peep how Ronnie reacted to that. He was very withdrawn and asexual, if you will, weirded out by the possibility that a woman would want to be affectionate with him, even if it was playful. Now, if you couple this with what we've seen with him and Pernissa, and the disdain that he's maintained for her, you could only draw a couple of conclusions. But I think the main point to gather is that Ronnie either isn't interested in anyone romantically, or is interested in someone very specific romantically. And that someone was taken from him in the worst way by a budding Rock. Now, if this was true, this is something that hit him deeply in his younger years. And when he went to prison, if Pernissa's quote is true, he saw Raquel take out High Post, who, although hasn't been confirmed as gay or anything like that, was someone who he had respect for in the streets, and the two had an arrangement. But if Rock was behind High Post's death, as Pernissa stated, then Ronnie had to go to jail with the knowledge that Rock just took over the game and did so in the snakish way possible. So now if you're Ronnie, and this theory holds true, you took my dude from me, you took the streets from me, and then they took my freedom from me. So having regained his freedom and society back, what is the only thing on his mind? Destroy, destroy, destroy the woman who took everything from me. And hey, that just may be why he nearly lost his jaw in that F-U Rock moment, or in that F-Rock moment, because in that moment, all of these sentiments that I've outlined converged into one hateful, sinister quote that nearly cost Ronnie his face. But what are your thoughts on all of this? Is Ronnie's hatred towards Rock just a competitive thing, or is it something deeper? Be sure to drop me your opinions in the comments below. As always, I thank you for watching today's video. If you liked today's video, go ahead and drop $1 on that Cash App for us, hit the like button, share it with your friends who are Power fans, and subscribe for more content such as this. This is Rudy P. Magic of Rudy P. Magic Beats, and have a blessed one until the next one. Peace, y'all.